It started like any other school day. Rain tapped gently against the dusty windows of Greenhill High as the first bell rang, echoing through the hallways. Cassandra, or Cassie, as most people called her, was sitting quietly in the back row of her English class, doodling in the corner of her notebook. She wasn't one of those girls people paid attention to. In fact, if you asked around, most students would describe her as sweet, smart, maybe a little awkward. Definitely the type of girl who never caused problems. She never expected that he would notice her. Mr. Ellison was young for a teacher, barely 30, charming in that boyish way, with messy brown hair and a crooked smile that made some of the girls giggle behind their hands. He taught literature, like it was poetry straight from his soul, always talking about emotion in the margins and how words can change a life. He had a way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room when he spoke to you. Cassie wasn't used to attention. She was used to being invisible. It started small, after-class chats about books, extra feedback on essays, that kind of thing. He called it mentorship. She believed it. Her father had walked out when she was 10, and her mother worked nights at a diner, barely home, always tired. Mr. Ellison was the first adult in years who made her feel seen. One rainy afternoon, he asked if she wanted to stay after class to talk about her writing. She said yes, of course she did. Eager, innocent, starved for someone to care. That day blurred into a few others. The talks got longer, deeper. Sometimes he'd compliment her. "You're wise beyond your years," he'd say, or "You see things most people your age can't." She glowed under the attention, but lines began to blur. It was just a touch, his hand on hers while she read aloud from her poem. Then a hug that lingered too long. Then that night. Cassie couldn't even describe how it happened. It felt like a movie scene gone wrong. He told her she was special, that she was beautiful, that no one understood her like he did. And for a girl who had never even kissed anyone before, those words hit like lightning in her chest. She didn't plan for anything to happen. She didn't even fully know what she was doing. It all felt like something happening to her, not something she chose. And then it was done. She cried when she got home. Not because she knew she was pregnant, she didn't. Not yet. But something inside her already felt broken. Weeks passed. Her period didn't come. She Googled symptoms late into the night, heart pounding so loud it made her ears ring. She bought the test with trembling hands, hiding it in her backpack. She took it in the school bathroom between classes. 2 lines. Cassie stared at that. Stick like it had just ruined her entire life. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think. She wanted to scream. But the worst part was, she didn't even know what to feel. Anger, guilt, shame. She hadn't told anyone. Not her mother, not her best friend, Tori, and definitely not Mr. Ellison. But he noticed. He always noticed. "You've been quiet lately," he said one morning after class, his voice gentle. "Is everything okay?" Cassie looked into his eyes and wanted to scream, "You did this to me," but all she could say was, "I'm fine," except she wasn't, not even close, and that was just the beginning. Cassie didn't sleep much after that. Her nights were a blur of panic attacks, silent tears and whispered prayers, that this was all just a nightmare she could somehow wake up from. Every morning she'd stare into the mirror, pulling her hoodie lower, trying to convince herself that nothing had changed, that no one could tell, but her body had other plans. The nausea hit hard during first period. She barely made it to the bathroom in time, her stomach twisting violently as she threw up everything she hadn't eaten. Her hands shook as she splashed cold water on her face. Someone outside knocked on the door. "You good?" a voice called out. It was Tori. Cassie hesitated before answering. "Yeah, just a bad breakfast burrito." Tori didn't sound convinced. But she didn't press either. She wasn't the type to pry unless invited in. The lie stuck in Cassie's throat like a splinter. That day at lunch, Cassie sat quietly while her friends laughed over videos and gossiped about who was hooking up with who. She picked at her sandwich, stomach churning. Mr. Ellison walked by their table on his way to the staff lounge, and Cassie flinched when their eyes met for half a second. He looked away too fast. He knows, she thought. Or maybe he just doesn't. want to know. By Friday, she couldn't take it anymore. She waited until the end of the day, heart hammering as she stood by the parking lot. She had no plan, just desperation. As Mr. Ellison walked out, adjusting his satchel, she stepped in front of him. "We need to talk," she said, voice low. His eyes flicked around. "Cassie, this isn't a good place. I don't care." "It's important." He hesitated, clearly nervous. Then he nodded, motioning toward his car. "Get in. We'll drive around." The moment the doors closed, silence swallowed them both. She stared straight ahead, fists clenched in her lap. "I'm pregnant," she said flatly. The words hit him like a slap. His knuckles went white on the steering wheel. What? You heard me." He didn't speak for a long time, just sat there breathing heavily like the walls were closing in on him. "Cassie," he finally said, voice shaking. "Are you absolutely sure?" She pulled the test out of her hoodie pocket and dropped it into his lap. "I'm sure." He cursed under his breath, running a hand through his hair. This can't be happening." But it was. It was happening, and no amount of denial could change. But what are we going to do?" she whispered. Her voice cracked. "You said I was special. You said—" "I didn't mean for any of this," he snapped, then immediately softened. "Look, Cassie, you're a kid. You don't understand how serious this is." She stared at him, the ache in her chest turning into something colder. "You're the adult. You did this." He looked away. "I'll figure something out," he muttered. "But you can't tell anyone. Not your mom, not your friends, no one." "I'm not stupid," she said, wiping her face. "I already know what'll happen if this gets out." She opened the car door and stepped out before he could stop her. That night, everything collapsed. Tori showed up at Cassie's house unexpectedly, dropping by with snacks and a movie. Cassie tried to fake it, act normal, but something in her face, her eyes, must have betrayed her. "You okay?" Tori asked. Cassie shrugged. "Just tired." But later, when they sat on the couch under a blanket, watching some cheesy rom-com, Cassie burst into tears out of nowhere. Tori paused the movie. "Cass, what's going on?" And just like that, the dam broke. She told her everything. Between sobs and broken words, she confessed the truth about Mr. Ellison, the pregnancy, the secret. Tori stared at her, horrified. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Cassie, this isn't just a mistake. This is illegal." Cassie looked down. "I know. You have to tell someone." "I can't," Cassie cried. "If anyone finds out, I'll be the one they blame. They'll say I asked for it, that I seduced him. I already know how this town works." Tori's hands were shaking. "Then we have to do something. You can't carry this alone." But Cassie already had, and now the weight was crushing her. What neither of them knew was that someone else had overheard the conversation through the half-open hallway door, and that person wouldn't keep it quiet. The next Monday felt like walking through a battlefield. Cassie knew something was off the moment she stepped into the hallway, the way people turned and whispered, the way eyes followed her, a few wide with shock, others narrowed in cruel amusement. She walked faster, clutching her books to her chest, pretending not to notice, but it was impossible to ignore. Then it happened. A boy she didn't even know smirked as she passed and muttered just loud enough for her to hear, "Must be nice. Getting straight A's and a baby from Mr. Ellison." Her heart dropped. Her legs went cold. She turned around so fast she almost lost her balance, but he was already gone, blending into the crowd of lockers and backpacks and oblivious noise. Her hands were shaking. How did they know? She ducked into the bathroom, locked herself in a stall, and tried not to hyperventilate. The hallway noises faded behind her, but her pulse was deafening. Someone had overheard her and Tori, that much was clear. But who? Tori met her in the library during lunch, looking panicked. "Cass," she whispered, dragging her behind the bookshelves. "It's spreading, like fast. I don't know who told, but someone's saying you're pregnant and that it's his." Cassie's face turned pale. "Did they use my name?" Tori hesitated. "Not yet, but people are connecting dots. You always stayed after class with him. You were quiet, distant. People notice that stuff." Cassie leaned against the bookshelf, trembling. "What do I do?" I don't know, Tori said, eyes watering, but you have to be careful. You need to get ahead of this. Cassie wanted to disappear, to go back in time, anything. Instead, she did the one thing she thought might help. She texted Mr. Ellison. Cassie, people are finding out. Someone overheard, I'm scared. He didn't reply right away. Minutes ticked by, then, Mr. Ellison, don't text me, delete this number. I warned you not to say anything, that was it. No comfort, no plan. No plan, no protection, just panic. He had left her alone in this. Tori saw her expression and grabbed her phone. What did he say? Cassie showed her the message. Tori's jaw clenched. He's turning his back on you after what he did? Cassie nodded, silent. That night, her worst fears were confirmed. Someone created a fake Instagram account, Green Hill Confessions, and posted a story. Word is a certain teacher got too close to a certain virgin poet. Now she's shopping for baby names. The comments exploded within minutes. Bet. He gave her extra credit too. Who's surprised? She was always the teacher's pet. I hope it's not true, but damn. Cassie, no way, she looked so innocent. By morning, she couldn't breathe without feeling like the world was closing in. Even the teachers looked at her differently. Mrs. Jenkins, her history. Teacher paused mid-lesson just a second too long when calling on her. Mr. Drew from science avoided her completely. And Mr. Ellison? He acted like she didn't exist. He didn't look at her, didn't speak to her, nothing. It was like she'd been erased. Her mom noticed something was wrong too. She came home early one evening to find Cassie curled up on the couch, silent, staring at a blank TV screen. You okay, honey? Cassie tried to lie. Yeah, just tired. Her mom frowned, sitting beside her. You've been off lately. Is someone bothering you at school? Cassie's throat tightened. She wanted so badly to say it, to let it all out, but the shame was too heavy. She just nodded. It's fine. But it wasn't, because the next day, everything truly exploded. Their student's older sister, a recent graduate who worked part-time in the school office, anonymously leaked a screenshot of the school's internal report. Someone had filed a complaint. An investigation had already started. Cassie's name was blurred out, but Mr. Ellison's wasn't. And just like that, it was no longer just a rumor, it was real. And everyone knew. The announcement came during third period. Cassie Thomas, please report to the principal's office. Her stomach dropped like a stone. It felt like the whole classroom froze for a second. Even Mr. Drew, who barely acknowledged her anymore, blinked twice before clearing his throat and pretending to go back to the whiteboard. Cassie stood slowly, heart hammering in her chest. I followed her out the door. The walk to the office felt like a march toward execution. When she arrived, the secretary wouldn't meet her eyes. Take a seat, they'll call you in soon. They. That word scared her more than anything. 5 minutes later, the principal's door creaked open. A tall woman in a grey blazer stepped out. She looked official, like someone who didn't smile unless legally required. Next to her was Mr. Calloway, the principal, pale and tense. Cassie, the woman said, I'm Miss Frey. I work with the district's Title IX compliance office. Come in. Cassie nodded mutely and followed. Them inside. The room was cold, too bright. There was a small voice recorder on the table and a folder with her name typed neatly on the label. They offered her water. She said no. Cassie, Ms. Fry began, her tone calm but sharp. We need to ask you some questions. You're not in trouble, but we take allegations involving staff very seriously. Cassie swallowed. What allegations? She knew the answer, but she asked anyway, clinging to the last bit of safety and pretending it wasn't real. There's been an anonymous report suggesting inappropriate behavior between you and Mr. Ellison, she said. Cassie said nothing. Your name wasn't mentioned directly, but based on what we've gathered, it's clear you're at the center of this. Mr. Calloway cleared his throat. Cassie, if anything happened, anything at all, you can trust us, but you have to be honest. Honest. As if honesty had protected her so far. I didn't report anything, she said quietly. That doesn't mean someone else didn't notice something, Ms. Frey replied. Students, staff, social media, We've seen screenshots, we know the rumors, but we're not here to judge, we just want the truth." Cassie's eyes filled with tears. She didn't want to speak. Every word felt like giving herself up to be dissected. "He said I was special," she whispered. "He made me feel like I mattered. I didn't know it was wrong until after." The room went still. "Did he ever touch you inappropriately?" Ms. Frey asked gently. Cassie nodded slowly. Was there any sexual contact?" Another nod. Slower. Her cheeks burned with humiliation. "And are you pregnant?" She froze. They already knew, but saying it out loud felt like handing over her soul. "Yes," she whispered. Mr. Calloway leaned back, visibly shaken. Ms. Frey only nodded, flipping open the folder. "Cassie, I need to explain what happens next. We'll be launching a formal investigation. Mr. Ellison has been placed on administrative leave as of this morning. You will not be in contact with him again, ever." Her breath caught. "Wait. He's gone?" "For now," Ms. Frey said. "He'll be informed of the investigation. We'll be interviewing other students, checking email records and gathering evidence. We're also required to contact Child Protective Services and your parent or guardian." "No," Cassie said quickly, panic rising. "Please don't. Tell my mom, please." "We don't have a choice," Ms. Frey said, her voice firm. "You're a minor, your safety comes first." Cassie collapsed into herself, crying quietly. By the time she was dismissed, the sun outside the window looked strange. Too bright, too clean for a day like this. Back in the hallway, she passed a few students who had clearly heard the rumors. One girl laughed under her breath as Cassie walked by. "Guess teacher's pet got more than a gold star," she muttered. Cassie didn't react, she couldn't. That night, when her mother came home, Cassie was already sitting at the kitchen table with her hands folded. Her mother looked confused. "School called me," she said. "They said there's been an incident." Cassie lifted her head. And then, finally, she told her the truth. Every word. Her mother didn't cry, didn't scream. She just stood there silent and still. Then she picked up her phone and said the words that would begin the next battle. "I'm calling the police." The officer who came to their house wasn't what Cassie expected. He looked young, too young to be investigating something like this, but his eyes were sharp and his questions were firm, not cruel, just cold. He took her statement while her mom sat beside her, tense and silent, one hand squeezing hers under the table. Cassie told him everything, every detail she could remember, how it started, where it happened, what he said, the night it happened. Her voice trembled, but she didn't stop. She couldn't afford to now. The officer wrote it all down without blinking. No sympathy in his eyes, no comfort. Just another case, another file. When it was over, he stood up and said, "We'll open a formal investigation. There may be a forensic interview, possibly charges. You did the right thing, Cassie." But it didn't feel like the right thing. It felt like being dragged underwater again and again. The next day, everything changed. Again. Mr. Ellison wasn't just suspended anymore. He was under investigation for statutory rape. The district issued a vague public statement. The media picked it up almost instantly. Small-town scandals always make big news when teachers are involved. His name was everywhere. So was hers, though in the news it was just a minor female student. But Green Hill High was small, everyone knew. Cassie couldn't walk to class without hearing whispers. Girls stared. Boys made disgusting jokes when they thought she couldn't hear. One boy had the audacity to say out loud, "She probably wanted it. Why else would she keep going back to him?" Tori tried to fight back online, defending Cassie in comments, blocking accounts that sent threats or nasty messages. But it was like trying to put out a wildfire with a teacup. And Mr. Ellison? He wasn't quiet for long. A week later, his lawyer made a statement. "My client denies all allegations. He has been a respected teacher for over a decade and believes this is a targeted smear campaign. We intend to cooperate with the investigation and clear his name." Cassie's blood boiled. Clear his name? She was the one with stretch marks forming across her stomach. She was the one waking up in cold sweats, flinching at the sound of footsteps. She was the one reliving everything every time she saw a book. A classroom, a man with messy brown hair, and yet he was out there playing victim. Her mom hired an attorney of her own, a woman named Ms. Vega. Sharp, bold, didn't blink once during the meeting. "We don't care about a settlement," her mom said. "We want him charged, fully, no more hiding." Ms. Vega nodded. "Then we're going to need everything. Emails, texts, witnesses. Your daughter is about to be the center of a very public storm." Cassie swallowed hard. "I didn't ask for this." "I know," Ms. Vega said gently, "but now you have to survive it." That same week, Cassie had to go to the Children's Advocacy Center for an official forensic interview. Her dark room, a stranger with a soft voice asking hard questions, a video camera recording every word. They made her repeat everything, over and over, until she felt like she wasn't even a person anymore, just evidence. Meanwhile, the school board was panicking. Parents started demanding answers. Some were furious at Mr. Ellison. Others, disturbingly, were defending him. One mom even said at a town meeting she probably led him on. Teenage girls these days aren't exactly innocent. Cassie watched the clip on her phone, sick to her stomach. The real gut punch came 3 days later. Someone leaked photos, private ones, messages, screenshots she'd sent to Tori in panic, asking if the cramps meant she was losing the baby. They were all over a student group chat by lunch. Cassie found out when she opened her locker and saw a sticky note. "You're famous now, baby mama." She stood there frozen until Tori pulled her away, saying nothing. But inside Cassie's heart something had shifted. She wasn't just scared anymore. She was furious. He'd stolen her innocence, her peace, her future, and now he wanted to walk away clean. No, not without a fight. The courthouse looked enormous to Cassie. Cold stone steps, towering pillars, people in suits rushing in and out. She'd never been inside one before. Now it felt like she was walking into a cage. Her mom held her hand tightly. Ms. Vega walked ahead, heels clicking with sharp confidence, folders tucked under her arm. "Remember," she said, "you don't have to speak today. This is preliminary. His lawyer's going to try and make him look like a saint, but he's on the defensive. We control the truth." Cassie nodded, but her legs were trembling. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with whispers. Students had skipped class just to sit in the back row. Parents lined the benches. Reporters scribbled notes. And at the front, in his pressed suit and smug composure, sat Mr. Ellison. He didn't look like the man who whispered she was beautiful. He looked like a man who thought he could win. His lawyer leaned toward him, whispering, and he even smiled. That smile nearly broke Cassie. When the hearing began, the defense went first. Mr. Ellison's lawyer was slick, smooth-voiced. "These allegations are built on rumor and exaggeration. My client has dedicated his life to teaching. There's no hard evidence tying him to these claims. What we have is a vulnerable young girl, misinterpreting mentorship and attention. And now, due to gossip, his reputation is being destroyed." Cassie's fists clenched. Misinterpreting? She remembered the way his hands had trembled against her skin. That wasn't mentorship. Ms. Vega rose like a storm. "With all due respect, this is not about gossip. This is about an adult man exploiting a minor. We have testimony. We have proof she is pregnant, and medical evidence will confirm without question that her statement is not fabricated." The judge banged the gavel for silence as the room erupted in murmurs. Cassie's cheeks burned, shame crawling over her skin. Everyone was staring. Her body, her most private truth, was now an exhibit in a courtroom. The hearing ended without resolution. Trial dates were set. Lawyers shook hands stiffly. Cassie walked out of the courthouse feeling like the walls had followed her home. For days she stayed in her room, barely eating. Tori visited with ice cream and bad movies, trying to keep her distracted, but Cassie's mind never stopped racing. What if the jury didn't believe her? What if he walked free? One night her mom sat on her bed. "Honey, I know this is hell, but you're stronger than you think. You didn't deserve this and you're not alone. He won't get away with it, I promise." Cassie wanted to believe her. She really did. Then Ms. Vega called. "Cassie," she said, voice urgent. "Something just came in. I think this could change everything." Cassie sat up. "What?" "And we subpoenaed his school email account. Most of it was scrubbed. He was careful. But he made a mistake. One message slipped through the cracks." Cassie's heart pounded. "What kind of message?" Ms. Vega paused, then read it aloud. "For you're not like the others. I wish I could say it's wrong, but I can't. I think about you all the time. Last night, I can still feel you." The words made Cassie's skin crawl. She remembered that night vividly. The mix of confusion, fear, and strange hollow flattery. Hearing it in his words made it undeniable. "It's dated 3 days before your positive test," Ms. Vega added. "This is direct. This is damning." For the first time in weeks, Cassie felt something other than despair. She felt power. But that power came with fear, too, because now Mr. Ellison knew the walls were closing in. And a man with his back against the wall, it could be dangerous. The leaked email spread like fire. By morning, it wasn't just lawyers and court officials who knew, it was the entire town. Screenshots flew through group chats, parents whispered at grocery stores, and teachers who once stayed neutral began avoiding Mr. Ellison's name altogether. Some people finally believed Cassie, others doubled down on their cruelty. "She probably wrote that to herself," one student scoffed in the cafeteria. "Doesn't matter," another muttered. "She's ruined him either way." Cassie sat with Tori, tray untouched, staring at the table. Every comment felt like another blade twisting in her gut. The school tried damage control, meetings, about student safety, counselors offering sessions no one trusted, but nothing could patch the cracks. The truth was out there now, too loud, too messy. Mr. Ellison was no longer smiling in court. His composure had cracked. On the local news, his lawyer gave another statement, sharper this time. "This so-called evidence is being taken out of context. My client denies any wrongdoing. This girl is unstable, and we will prove it." Unstable. The word cut deeper than all the whispers. Cassie slammed her phone down and cried into her hands. "He's trying to make me look insane." Her mom rubbed her back, her own eyes red. "That's what men like him do. They twist it, make the victim carry the shame. But he's slipping, honey. He's scared. Scared. And dangerous." The threat started a week later. Note slipped into her locker. "Liar." Spray paint on the bathroom stall. "Teacher's slut." Even a phone call one night, static on the line before a man's voice hissed, "You'll regret this." Cassie's mom went straight to the police. They traced nothing. No fingerprints, no caller ID. Cassie barely slept, flinching at every creak in the house. She started locking her bedroom door at night. Tori tried to stay close, but even she was shaken. "Cass, what if he's trying to scare you into backing down?" Cassie stared at her, eyes hollow. "It's working." But deep inside, beneath the fear, another fire burned. He wanted her silent, he wanted her broken. If she gave him that, he won. Still. Her breaking point came on a Thursday. Walking home from school, backpack heavy, head down, she felt the prickle of being watched. She turned. Across the street, leaning against a black car, was Mr. Ellison. He wasn't smiling, he wasn't pleading. He was just staring. Eyes hard, jaw tight. Cassie froze, panic flooding her chest. "Cassie!" a voice shouted. Tori running up behind her, phone already in hand. She lifted it like a weapon, recording. Mr. Ellison slid into his car and drove off without a word. Cassie's knees buckled. Tori grabbed her, whispering, "I've got you. He's not going to touch you, not again." By the time police arrived, he was gone. They filed a report, promised to tighten restrictions, but Cassie knew laws were just paper. If he wanted to get to her, he would. That night she stared at the ceiling, hands on her stomach, whispering to the life inside her. "I'm scared," she said softly. "But I won't let him erase us, not me, not you, because this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about fighting back, even if it cost her everything." The courthouse was packed the day the trial began. Reporters outside, microphones thrust forward, the low hum of whispers inside the marble hall. Cassie kept her hood up, hand in her mother's, while Miss Vega walked ahead like a general leading soldiers into battle. "Remember," she whispered as they entered, "you've already lived the worst of it. All that's left is telling your truth. He can't take that from you." Cassie nodded, but her chest ached. Inside, Mr. Ellison sat at the defense table, clean-shaven, suit-sharp, trying to look like the man everyone once trusted. His lawyer stood tall, radiating confidence, but his eyes gave him away. They darted, restless, betraying the calm mask. The prosecution began with the email, projected on a giant screen, every word glowing in the silent courtroom. "You're not like the others. I wish I could. Say it's wrong, but I can't. I think about you all the time." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Miss Vega didn't stop there. She laid out the pregnancy, the timeline, the testimony from Cassie's medical visits. She brought in Tori, who recounted the night Cassie broke down and confessed. She played the voicemail recording Cassie's mom had saved. His voice, furious, low, spitting. "You can't ruin me, don't you dare." Every piece painted the picture he tried so hard to erase. Then it was Cassie's turn. Her heart thundered as she sat in the witness box, the room blurred, faces melting into shadows. Only Miss Vega's voice kept her grounded. "Cassie, did Mr. Ellison ever tell you that you were special?" "Yes," she whispered. "Did he ever make you feel like what he was doing was normal?" "Yes." "And did you consent?" "Cassie?" Her throat tightened. She looked straight at the jury, tears stinging her eyes. "I didn't even know what consent meant until after. I thought it was love, but it wasn't. It was him taking what he wanted. Silence swallowed the courtroom. The defense tried to shred her apart. They called her unstable, suggested she had a crush, claimed she invented the story to hide shame over being reckless. "Cassie," the defense lawyer said smoothly, "you've admitted you were emotional, lonely. Isn't it possible you imagined his intentions?" Her hands shook, but her voice didn't. "Emails aren't imagination." He pressed harder. "And you expect this jury to believe that a respected teacher would throw away his career for you?" Cassie felt her body go numb, then her lips parted. "Yes," she said, her voice sharp, "because men like him don't see girls like me as people. They see us as things they can own. But I'm not his thing. I never was." The room went still. Her words cut through the lawyer's performance like glass. Even some of the jurors flinched. When closing arguments came, Miss Vega's voice was like fire. "This isn't about a rumor. It isn't about a crush. This is about an adult who preyed on a child and thought he could silence her. Today you get to prove him wrong." The jury deliberated for hours. Cassie sat in the hallway with her mom and Tori, legs numb, praying silently. Finally, the bailiff opened the door. Verdicts in. The foreman stood, paper in hand. On the charge of sexual assault of a minor, guilty. On the charge of child endangerment, guilty. On the charge of misconduct as an educator, guilty. Cassie exhaled so hard she nearly collapsed. Mr. Ellison's face drained of all color. His mask cracked, rage flickering in his eyes as deputies closed in to cuff him. For the first time, he looked small. The judge's gavel thundered. Sentencing would come later, but the verdict was enough. Cassie had been believed. Outside, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Her mom shielded her, Miss Vega pushing through the crowd. But Cassie paused. For the first time, she didn't hide her face. She let the cameras see her. Not a rumor. Not a secret. A girl who had survived. Later that night, in the quiet of her room, she lay on her bed, hand resting on her stomach. The world had tried to break her. He had tried to erase her, but she was still here, and so was the life inside. "Her?" She whispered softly, "We made it." And this time, she almost believed it.